Welcome everyone to our first Facebook Live series with Caroline Smith from Jack Adder Business Consulting in Perth. Welcome, Caroline. Great to have you here. So obviously we've had some technical issues this afternoon or this morning if you're over in Western Australia. So I apologise for that, but I'm very, very happy to have us both on now to be able to, I've got lots of questions that I want to ask Caroline, and I also would love to answer any questions that you may have. So pop them in the comments. If you are here live with us, let us know who you are, say hi. If there are other Profit First professionals on, please put your say hi as well, so that people know that we've got other Profit First professionals around. We're a great community and we love to support each other. Now, before I introduce Caroline, I just wanted to give you a quick rundown as to who Profit First Australia is and introduce myself, because I know I haven't gone live very often here on this page. So I'm Laura Elkislasi and I work with the Profit First professionals here in Australia so that we can serve business in Australia to help them drive profitability and ensure that they have money to pay themselves, to pay all the GST and tax, and also run a profitable business, which is definitely something that we need to work towards, since so many businesses unfortunately face lots of challenges in that respect. So just a quick intro from me. I would love to introduce you to Caroline. Caroline, would you like to tell us a bit about who you are and what your business is?
Right. Well, my business is Jack Adder Business Consulting, and I originally set it up to help businesses improve how they ran their processes. So a lot of people are just so caught up in the day-to-day that they don't realize that there are better things they could be doing. As soon as I started that business, I realized that the thing they most needed help with was finances. So my business then started focusing on finances. I became a BAS agent, and I've been helping a lot of people with bookkeeping. But while I'm helping people with bookkeeping, I'm also helping them build their businesses. And I'm often asked how they can become more profitable. And when I first discovered Profit First, I thought, wow, this is it. This is a method that you can use with any business, and it will really help them if they follow what's suggested. And so that's why I've been Profit First professional.
Fantastic. That was my second question. So you've preempted that.
That's what my business is about.
Absolutely. So what was it that prompted you to become a Profit First professional? So obviously it was the method, but what about it really, I guess, aligned with how you were helping businesses?
Well, I was looking for something to do more than just bookkeeping. So I was on the search for something. And my business coach runs her business on Profit First, and she suggested I read the book. She also suggested I have a chat with you. So I read the book, I had a chat with you, and it just seemed to be the way forward. I thought it was a no-brainer. I'm used to, from my life in IT for many years before this, following methodologies that help you do things in a repeatable way, and Profit First offering that, but also it was just clearly going to work. So it was just, for me, it was a no-brainer.
Fantastic.
I ran my own business for a couple of months just to make sure before I signed up, but then I signed up.
Fantastic. And part of the certification as well is that you have to implement it in your own business,
yes.
And obviously keep it implemented in your business. So one of the things that we've discussed previously is how doing the certification yourself and implementing it with, I guess, you know, the guidance of the Profit University and being able to have conversations with the community and myself, you've noticed some changes for your own business, and I guess the tweaks and the nuances that you wouldn't get out of reading the book. Could you share a little bit about that with us?
Yes, I think the big thing for me was I seem to be running out of money in my operating expenses.
Oh, looks like Caroline just dropped out quickly. We will wait for Caroline to come back. I don't know what happened. I think it might
Clients
be... Oh,
come. Sorry?
you're back again. You dropped out.
Oh, did I drop out? I was
Yes.
still here on the screen.
Go. So start that again.
So I found in the first few months, the operating expenses account was being a little bit tricky, and I was finding I had to do distributions every week. And then I realized the reason was that early in the month I had quite a number of subscriptions for my clients, and basically I'm passing those on at cost. And so only taking 40% of that income into my operating expenses was leaving me short. So it's too small an amount to be worth setting up a separate account. But I calculate that amount and I put that into the operating expenses first and then run my percentages on what's left. And that way I have enough for my standard expenses and those subscriptions are covered.
Fantastic. So are you able to explain for those that may be watching that may not fully understand Profit First or are not, I guess, far enough into the book to understand all of the different accounts and stuff, what you're talking about in terms of the subscriptions being too small to open up another account? What is that other account and how is that used?
Okay, so if you're using more advanced Profit First, and if you were, say, a manufacturing business, you would be having a lot of materials that you need to make the product that you're manufacturing. You may also in that business or in other businesses have a lot of subcontractors who you pay only for what they do producing your goods. So that money is separate from your standard operating system, operating expenses, which are your expenses for actually running the business. So in a large business, well, in a business that had a lot of those expenses, it would be worth opening a separate bank account called materials and subs and putting money for those materials and the subcontractors aside, and then cutting down on your, then you can clearly see what you're spending to produce your goods and what you're spending on running your business. If you throw everything in together, it's too hard to see which area of your business needs improvement.
That's a great point. So can you tell me a little bit about what it is that you do with your clients when it comes to the implementation of Profit First and what you mean by being able to see where in your business you need help?
Right.
Profit First.
Well, I recently did a profit assessment on a client who was designing product and having it made and then selling it online. So when I looked at her business, just looking at the profit and loss, it looked like she was doing quite well. There was quite a healthy amount at the bottom line. But when I looked into it further, she was spending over 60% of her income on just producing the product.
Wow.
So that's a huge amount. We'd like to see that below 40% and preferably closer to 30%. So we looked into it, and I've also advised her to separate things out more because she had an account that had the cost for printing her goods. She had packaging in there. She had a lot of other expenses in there that I couldn't really identify. And separating everything out means you can then say, okay, the printing is a massive cost. I mean, she has now decided to have her stuff printed overseas where it's vastly cheaper. Mm-hmm. So, and looking at her packaging, if she looks at that, separates that out and looks at that, she may find that there's better ways of getting her packaging materials that are just as good as what she's using now. And I think when people start their businesses, they do it the easy way. And so she was going in spot to get packaging materials, because when you start, it's just small. You only want a little bit. But once you start to grow, you still tend to do the same things that you've been doing. So this is an opportunity now to look at that, think, well, okay, I'm shipping huge numbers of these things now. I need to find a better way of getting my packaging in and reduce those costs as well. So she had lots of opportunities to find ways of reducing the actual cost of her goods. And then there's no need to reduce the price. She would be making a far higher amount on the work that she's doing. And as well as that, she probably should be reviewing the prices of her products as well, because she probably hasn't increased those since she started the business, and inflation has increased. So that's even if it's only an inflation increase, but she needs to look at the value of her product. I mean, she is selling a lot of them, so it's highly likely that people will pay a little bit more for them as well, which again would increase her profit margin.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that people seem to think about when it comes to finance and where Profit First is different is, yes, we deal with the numbers, and yes, it is a methodology, but what it actually does is it shines a spotlight on different areas of your business that you may not necessarily correlate with numbers or bottom line, such as efficiencies or systems, or as you've said, costs of, actual materials and subs, or the time as the business owner that's going into it because of the double handling or triple handling and that sort of thing. And so I think people don't think of it in that way, whereas I think that Profit First is a great methodology to use to be able to understand more about the different areas of your business. Have you found the same for your clients?
Yes, absolutely. We're looking at huge numbers of different things with various clients. I mean, one client has just shut one of his offices. It just wasn't making sufficient money, and even with a projection of it increasing its sales from that office over a period of 3 years, we still just couldn't justify leaving that office open. And so we just brought everyone back to the main office, and things are improving greatly. But again, people own an office. It's a big dream having a second office, and they're very reluctant to let go of the dream unless you can show them some hard, concrete evidence that they're just going to go broke if they keep going this way. So it really does help people see the writing on the wall and make the changes that they need to make. Because before that, it's just a feeling, or it'll get better. But you can demonstrate that over time it has been getting better, it's just been getting worse or staying the same. And what are they going to do to make it work? And sometimes there isn't a way to make it work. The best way is to stop doing it. Or there may be some way of making it work. It really depends on the situation.
And I guess in this case, Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. I think there was.
Sorry, I was just going to say in this case, the best move was to just close this office, because it just wasn't viable in the long term.
And it's hard, but it makes a huge difference to the client once you get over that whole having to make that change.
I mean, they actually had 2 shops initially, and that was costing them over $7,000 a month. So they shut one of the shops. That's still $3,500 a month. That's just in rent that they're saving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's where being a Profit First professional and actually implementing Profit First with a Profit First professional makes such a difference, because yes, the book is very comprehensive and you can absolutely start the implementation, and there are people that do go on to only need the book because the changes that they need to make in their business are what they are and they're able to do so. But I myself personally, when I had to implement it in my own business as well, here I was thinking this isn't going to be difficult because I think I'm running a pretty good business and that sort of thing. But it highlighted certain things that I really didn't want to let go of, and rent is definitely one of them. And looking at subscriptions, and I'd love to automate and be efficient and that sort of thing, but sometimes you can just have too many subscriptions for what you really need to do.
Yes.
And through working with, I guess, the guides at Profit First in the US, I got to get that accountability and support, and also have someone else take the emotion away. So can you explain a little bit how, like, your process of working with your clients and how it differs from, I guess, the DIY?
Right. Well, I find when the clients come to me, the first thing they say I really, I'm very confused. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to figure out my percentages. And a lot of the people I work with don't have a good understanding of what a profit and loss statement is. I mean, that's one of the starting points for us. And we pull numbers out of it and rearrange them in the way that makes sense, is profit first wise. But the clients don't even understand how it works in a basic sense. So for them to actually pull the numbers out into the right places is very difficult. So they're very happy for me to run away with it and do my assessment on it, and then I come back. And along the way, I'm talking to them about their goals, what they're aiming for in their business, so that I know what to allow for. Clients have said anything from, I just want to make enough out of this business to pay for a family holiday each year, to I want this to replace my $90,000 income that I'm making from my job. So once you know those things, you can start setting the path. So you can implement profit first, but on your own, but learning how to go that step further to actually implement your dreams is where having a professional who's experienced in doing this stuff and has done it before for other people, plus has the full backing of Profit First Australia and Profit First in the US to get advice from people who've done similar things before, it's just so much smoother for them. So
for sure.
yes.
And I think that's the thing, is that we business owners, and I think we can both say the same thing because we are business owners too, is that you get so bogged down in the doing and the next thing that needs to happen, and the client work that needs to be done and all of that sort of thing, that the idea of having to think about what is my goal, what is my dream, what are my priorities when it comes to, I guess, the profitability, the scalability, or whatever, even if it's just personal goals. And this is where working with a professional makes such a difference, is that you definitely have your business and you have your personal, but they are interconnected. And so if one is not working, the other is going to be affected. So it is so much more than, I guess, the methodology. It is about getting and accomplishing those goals and the dreams and making the changes to be able to get to where you want to be. And it does take time and it's not easy. So can you add anything to that?
Well, I would have to say it took me at least 6 months to feel comfortable that I had things working properly. I tweaked things along the way. But really, it did take the 6 months to feel like everything was in place. And I guess my big Achilles heel is that I see the nice, bright, shiny thing that's really going to improve my business. And I like quality. So when I buy things, they're expensive. I don't like the cheap versions of them. And in the past, I would just say, oh, well, I've got the money to afford it, and I would buy it. But then I wasn't getting paid because I'd spent all the money. And so this has really given me a consistent income from my business. Then some months I get more into my owner's pay than other months, but I take a consistent amount out. And that really helps with the personal life of knowing how much money you've got to spend.
Absolutely. And I see we've got a comment here from Shalini saying, thank you for introducing Profit First to my business, Laura. Has made business easier and doable. And I find that, like, a lot of my clients that I've worked with, or even people that I've spoken to that have gone on to implement themselves, say the same thing. Have you found the same thing? And if so, how does it make it easier and doable, in your opinion?
I'm not sure I can put my finger on how it's easy, but it just is. I mean, the money is there. I just make the distributions twice a month. I use different days than the suggested in the book. Then that's just to do with the timing of when my income comes into the account. So it made sense to do it on the 14th and the 28th for me. And I don't need those extra 3 days to write a check and post it like they do in America. So I just need, if I need to pay any bills, I can do it straight away. Again, the money goes in, well, roughly every fortnight, but then you only take the money out once a fortnight, you pay the bills once a fortnight. It's, instead of just leaping in there and doing it anytime you think, you know, I've got 5 minutes here, I'll do it. It actually streamlines what you're doing because you're processing things in batches. And
that is so true.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what works for your business in terms of distributions and how often and that sort of thing can be very different to another business. And I think people don't realize that you don't have to stick to the fortnightly, and that may not work. And that actually may be the challenge. That like I have a client where monthly works the best because it is
Yes.
like such an influx. And if we did it fortnightly, the first fortnight they'd have no money, and then the second fortnight it'd be like, wow, where did all this money come from? So
Yes.
you know, it is about working with a professional to be able to look at, well, what are, I guess, the waves that happen in your business? Is it seasonal? Are there other things that we need to take into consideration?
Yeah. One of my clients always did her bookkeeping on a Friday morning. So it just made sense for her to do her distributions every Friday morning because that was already her habit. So.
Well, there you go. Perfect. And you don't have to change that.
No. And it was a business where the money's coming in a little bit all the time. So, again, that made sense to do it weekly. Then she had the money to buy materials, which she might not have had if she wasn't doing it more often.
Absolutely. And we've got a question here from Louisa. She says, I understand there are 5 bank accounts, for it to work. Do you recommend any financial institution in Tasmania that would be willing to do this? Did you want to answer that, Caroline?
I don't know if there's any extra ones in Tasmania. I can tell you that I've got my income, my operating expenses, and my owner's pay account with Bank West. That all of those accounts are fee-free, so that is a nice consideration. And then I have my tax and profit accounts in ANZ in some a couple of their online savings accounts where I'm at, I think, 5 transactions a month before I get charged any fees. And 5 transactions a month is enough because I'm putting it in twice and taking it out once a quarter. So
perfect.
That's more than enough. So they're free. So my recommendation is to go look for banks that will have give you accounts for free.
And that's a very good one. And I think it also depends on what it is that you're looking to get out of the bank that you're with. So, and then it doesn't have to be with the same bank that you might have your personal banking with. Definitely look at what bank accounts have no fees, as Caroline recommended. And also, you know, part of working with a professional is that we do have resources such as a list of banks in Australia that are fee-free that you can open multiple accounts with. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in the state that you are in, because unless, of course, you need to go into a branch, then definitely take that into consideration. But a lot of life and banking is done online now, so you really do have an open slather as to which bank works best for you. So have a look at that. And one other point that I will make is that you don't necessarily have to set up all 5 bank accounts at the one time. Did you want to explain why I might have said that, Caroline?
Well, we're looking to work with the way you work in your business and leverage on existing habits. And if you feel that having 5 bank accounts is just going to be too confusing for you and going to prevent you from actually doing profit first, then you might be better off just opening, for instance, a tax account so you can put money aside for your taxes. Get used to that and then think about doing something more. So it really does depend. If you want to go the whole hog up front, that's fine. But if it's a little bit too much for you, you think you won't manage to keep going with it, then by all means just open the account that's the most critical for you, the one that's giving you the most pain. So if you find you can never pay your taxes, put the money aside for taxes. If your real pain point is that you can't ever pay yourself, start putting aside money to pay yourself.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what it is like, for example, I've got I had a new client that came to me, and the biggest thing was having enough money for the expenses, because it was getting too confusing to have the one account where the ins and outs are all happening, because it's like, okay, so what is new income? How can I do a distribution if it's going in and out? And, oh, is this money actually mine to pay expenses and that sort of thing? So in that way, it's understanding what changes you need to make first, and that this is not a silver bullet. It is a journey that you're going to go on. And sometimes it's a lot easier to just start with one thing at a time. That said, I am of, I guess, the personality where I'm like, well, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do all of it. And so I did it that way. But I also, have other friends and business owners that are like, right, I just need to be putting GST away, as Caroline stated. So we also have another question, Caroline, from Penny. Do you recommend 2 different banks like they do in the States, or having all accounts with the one bank okay? Do you want to answer that?
Well, I prefer the 2-bank system for the tax and the profit accounts, because they're not accounts that you want to touch very often. You're only going to touch the tax when you're paying your BAS or your income tax, and you're only going to touch the profit account when you do your quarterly profit distribution. So it's really good to have them out of sight, out of mind. And it's a lovely, pleasant surprise when it comes to paying the tax and you look into the account and more than you're expecting to have in there. You haven't had any temptation of removing it in the meantime. So I do recommend the separate accounts, because we are all human. And when we see money and we need a bit more for something, it is very tempting. But if you've got it out of sight, then it's more likely that you will leave it there.
Absolutely. And just to give you sort of a personal experience on that, is that initially, before I did the full implementation, I'm like, I'm just going to have it all in the same bank, because, it's going to be fine. I know that that's for tax and GST and that's for profit, and I'm just not going to touch it. But then it's like you feel the pressure about something. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to borrow $5 from here and I'll pay that back. And then something else happens and that $5 doesn't go back. And so instead of things increasing, they're decreasing. And so it wasn't until I kind of went, okay, no, now you're being silly, Laura. You know better than this. You're implementing this. I then put it into the separate bank, and it hasn't been a problem since, because I don't waver in my decisions, because I don't actually see the money to go, oh, well, I'll just borrow that. And look, I've got other clients where they don't have that, where they don't feel the need to borrow from themselves, and so they can keep it in the same bank. But I agree with Caroline. I think that would be our recommendation, is to definitely keep the banks separate, but especially for tax and profit. Fantastic. So I've taken a lot of your time, Caroline, so I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us. I do have 2 last sort of questions before I let you go. The first being, for the business owners that are watching at the moment and will watch the replay, what is the one tip that you would suggest regarding, either starting profit first or implementing profit first?
I think the best thing ever was separating the income from the expenditure, because then you can actually see what money is coming in, what pattern it's coming on, and with the expenses coming out of a separate account, you can see the patterns in that as well. And that's just one small step that you can make to improve your business, which is very, very easy to do. And you need to consider which of those accounts becomes the operating account and the other one that becomes the income account, because for instance, all your money comes in through some online thing, you can change the income account quite easily. But I found that it was really quite hard to get my clients to start paying me to a different bank account. So I really rather wished I'd kept my income account and moved all my operating into a different one. But as I say, if I'd been taking all my money through an online provider, I would have just been able to change the account it went to from there. So, but I really do think seeing the patterns of your money, I have changed how I do my billing drastically since I've been doing profit first. and I focus on, so some of my clients I bill monthly, and some of them it's just when the job is completed. So I focus now on, I've got a distribution coming up. Let's focus doing the work for the people that I'm going to bill on completion, so that money will come in and then I can distribute it. So I'm actually improving my cash flow by seeing the pattern of how income comes in.
Fantastic. That is such a huge tip. So if you're not doing that, definitely do that. And I guess my last question, I know we've got a couple more questions in the comments. So instead of taking the time in the live with Caroline, because I know she's got a lot to do, we'll come back and answer these questions in the comments. So you will get your questions answered. But I am going to move on to my last question, which is for the accountants, bookkeepers, or coaches that may be watching. Why should they consider becoming a Profit First professional?
Well, you learn so much more than's in the book. You also learn all the adaptations for Australia, because it is, after all, written in America, and they don't have our GST, they don't have superannuation. There's a lot of things that are different in Australia. So you learn the little changes that you make for that. Also, we have a lovely community. We help each other. We're backed up by Profit First Australia. So if I've got a client that's got something I haven't come across before and I'm not quite sure how to proceed, I can get help from Laura, or I can post it in the Facebook groups and get help from anyone who's Profit First professional who may have done something similar. So the support is wonderful. And as well as that, of course, we're getting the referrals through from people that contact Profit First Australia looking for someone to help them. And that's where most of the work I'm getting with Profit First is coming from. So absolutely, being a member gets you the work in. And I'm not just getting Profit First work in either. I'm getting the bookkeeping work in as well, because people say, oh, well, my books are a mess. And so I say, well, we'll have to clear that up first. Otherwise, we won't have decent numbers to work with. And so I'm getting ongoing bookkeeping work as well as Profit First work. So my business is growing in two areas.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Caroline. I really appreciate your time today, and I'm really glad that people got to meet you, because you are an amazing woman and doing amazing things with your clients. I will be adding Caroline's details to the comments, so if you are interested in talking further with her about your business, you'll have that opportunity to do so. Also, feel free to jump on the Profit First Australia website, which is profitfirstaustralia.com.au. We have all of our Profit First professionals listed on that website, as well as a form if you'd like to be paired with a specific Profit First professional based on, I guess, what your business needs and any other considerations. Also, for those of you that may want to consider becoming a Profit First professional, jump onto the website. You can book in a call with me where I can answer any questions that you may have and go through that. And we will be back in, I think it's a week or 2 weeks time with another Profit First professional. So thank you so much for joining us and for asking the questions that you have. We will be answering those in the comments, so you will not be forgotten at all. And for those that are watching the replay, still put your comments in and we will definitely assist. Thank you again, Caroline, and have a great day, everyone.
Great, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Laura.